Everyone is looking for love. And they're desperate to find it. We must show them love. We must introduce them to love, to Jesus. To Jesus, for this is true revival. Love is all they need, everlasting love. Rise up and go and show them love, revival love, supernatural love. Jesus is love. On today's program, we're going to be speaking about a very serious issue, a very important and pertinent issue for today. But we're also going to give great hope. We're going to talk about the whole subject of abortion and pro-life, and what do you do if you've had an abortion, or if you're looking to have one, or a friend is looking to have one, and what do you do with the ramifications that have happened to some people afterwards, such as the shame, the guilt, everything that goes with it. So we're going to be talking about those types of things, and we have some exciting input to give to you, a viewer, and some very hopeful plans of action for you so that we can change an atmosphere that is full of hopelessness and despair into one of life and expectation. And so with me today, I have Dr. Laura Lewis, and you're a fellow Canadian.
Yeah.
And it's so good to have you on today's program. You're with CAPS, which is the Canadian Association for the Prevention of
Pregnancy Support Services.
Pregnancy Support Services. I was saying earlier, it's a mouthful, but CAPS is easy, so I can remember that one, and we'll put the CAPS.com website for people to contact you on the screen. But this is a very important subject that we're talking about today, because there are so many people who have had abortion, or who are contemplating abortion, or who might be in the future, because it's so acceptable today. And of course, both of us have had involvement in the medical field. You've been a medical doctor for over 20 years, I think it was. You just stepped out of your practice in order to pursue this full time, so God bless you. And years ago, I was in the medical field too as a nurse, and in that field, it just seemed, I remember thinking, well, this is, a good thing. It's helpful for some people. They should have a choice for this. And I wasn't a Christian at the time. I didn't know the heart of God at the time. I hadn't had that input. But when he came to me and revealed to me his desire for life, not death, and when he showed me what was actually happening to these little lives, it changed everything for me. Mm-hmm. And that's what everyone needs, is that special word from the Lord, or that insight, that revelation. So share with us about your journey, because you weren't always pro-life.
No, and really, I've been a Christian now for 14 years, but really I've only been pro-life for the last 10 years, even though I had understood the miraculous nature of life, that it began at the moment of conception, all the science behind fetal development. I understood all of that, but in my training as a physician, I'd sort of boxed it to one side. Mm-hmm. And then when it came to abortion, it was more about fixing a problem, helping a woman fix a problem, and responding to her need and her anguish. And so I felt like really I was helping her. So even after I became a Christian, I knew that there was a mismatch in my understanding about the life issue and what I was doing. And gradually, God used someone with Down syndrome in our community, a little girl who her brother played hockey with one of our sons. Uh-huh. And I just saw the joy that she brought into any situation, and I began to wonder, how can we say that her life doesn't matter? And that was sort of the first chip that began to chip away at my understanding. And slowly God revealed his heart for me, for all people, and it really did change the way I handled these situations.
It's such a complex issue, isn't it? Because God is all about life, and yet, when you look at each individual, you can see such value in them, because God created value inside of every individual. There's no two alike. So everyone is important, and everyone's price tag is beyond what anyone could pay for, right? And yet at the same time, when you see a woman struggling with whatever the situations were around the unwanted pregnancy, and you see the pain in them, compassion wells up. And so you want to help. You want to do something that'll help alleviate the pressure and the pain. And I think that that's an important subject to talk about, is that when do we allow emotions to override the truth? Because I think we've all done that. You know, our compassion overrides what we know is true. And of course, if we violate God's word, it's always going to end up bad, not because he hates us or anything, but just because it's the way it is. Like, you might not like the idea that if you throw a ball up into the air, it comes down again. But the thing is, it will come down, right? So how do you reconcile that? How did you even reconcile it as you're going through this journey where you've got people of great need and pain coming to you, and yet then you had come into the realization of life did matter?
Yeah, and that's a good question. And I think some of how it changed for me was when I started to hear the stories from women who actually regretted their abortion, who maybe at the time they were pressured by someone in their life, or their circumstances seemed overwhelming and they thought this is what they had to do, or maybe they felt like they didn't have another choice. And when they started to share with me their regret, and when I heard their pain and saw their tears, I started to really question what I was believing in. And even though sometimes we make choices because we don't really understand, or we feel we have no other solution to a problem, and yet afterwards when we look back, we can see it with a very different viewpoint. And so,
Right.
yeah, I think that for many women, they feel like they actually don't have a choice.
And that's a hard thing, especially for a medical practitioner who's listening, you know, to the pain at the time, and you're trying to give them the solution that they need, or at least offer them the options and that. And so when they make a decision, either because of pressure or because at the moment they thought it was the right thing to do, what do you do when they come back to you and say, I wish I'd never done it, but it's too late? I mean, obviously it's too late to fix that as it was. So how do they move forward? What are some of the ways that you've been able to help women move forward?
And I will say that I'm not sure how many women are going to their medical provider or professional and talking about their abortion regret, because there's still so much shame and secrecy. It's really a hidden sorrow. And that's where the local pregnancy care centers are so important, because that's what they are there for. They're there for the challenges of the unplanned pregnancy, but they're also there with the compassion and hope and promise of Jesus Christ and his ability to love us even when we've made a mistake or done something that we think is unforgivable. And for many women in the church, that's what they're believing, that this mistake of abortion or their decision to have an abortion is something that cannot be forgiven, and yet that is a lie. Jesus came to give us life and life abundant, and that is the promise for every woman. And many go to pregnancy care centers where they do abortion recovery programs, and they have to walk through. Sometimes it's even just acknowledging all of the circumstances around the abortion decision and then journeying through it, and that can take weeks and it can be hard. But there's nothing, for me, I love to see a woman who's known the full forgiveness that is available to her, and then she's a voice to others.
Right. So there's the forgiveness issue, and then also the regret issue. Because we're talking about a child here, your child, that you have discarded, and you can never have that child back.
Yeah.
One of the blessings is it got eternal, like there's eternal life in God, and so that there's a reconciliation that will come eventually. But do you have any ways about how to handle the regret? How do you fill that space again? Because we know that a lot of people that have had abortions, many of them have suffered with depression, even suicidal temptations afterwards, and sometimes after many years. How how can we help these women deal with not only the unforgiveness issue, but with the regret?
Yeah, and I think a big thing is opening the conversation. Many women, no one's talking about it around them. One of my friends who had an abortion at 15, she said everything just went silent afterwards. No one talked about it. And I know as a physician, women would go and have an abortion, and then I would never ask them how they were doing afterwards.
Right.
I just felt like it was private, it was hard, we wouldn't bring it up again. So a big thing is actually opening the
Able to talk it
conversation.
through.
So it is not something that is to be kept quiet. We need to talk about anything in our life that is hard and painful. You want to talk about it with people that you trust and feel safe with. But actually confessing things, right? Speaking things out, it takes some of the covering off of the wound so that God can heal it. And then that maybe it is a bit of an unknown thing. How do we fill that void? Because we can't bring a child back. And many people do have that regret, but we also know that God is able to heal us where we think maybe we'd never have that healing and freedom and peace, and yet that is who he is. And so I don't have a clear understanding of how he does that, but I know that he does it, and it is for everyone.
Yeah. You know, I just sense that there's someone watching, maybe many of you even, that are identifying with this. Not only that it was hard to forgive yourself for taking the life of your child, but also the regret of not being able to go back and fix it, or go back to where it was before, that it's so finished, and you're left with raw emotion on the inside. And I'm just sensing something right now that I'm going to invite you to do. If you have never done this before, and you've lost a child, and this could be either you chose to terminate your pregnancy, or it could be through a miscarriage, or maybe even a stillborn. A lot of times, like when the child is born full term, if it dies after it comes through the womb, you're able to have a service, a funeral service for it, and that's where you commit the child to the Lord. So there's a closure in the spirit. But when you have a terminated pregnancy, oftentimes there is no closure like that. There's no release. And what I'm sensing right now is that if you have had a terminated pregnancy and you're feeling that regret or lack of closure, just do this with me right now. First of all, ask the Lord to give you a name for your baby if you don't already have one. And we've found in times before when we've done this, that he just gives the name like that. And it just comes into your mind, and just ask him to give you the name. Just take a moment right now and just receive that. And some of you, even after the program, you might want to spend time doing this, but get the name and then just release. Tell the child, the Lord will take that message. Your child is in heaven, and the Lord will take that message to them and call them by name. Say, I'm so sorry for what I've done. I miss you. I wish I could hold you in my arms, but I can't. I wish I could be there to see you go through school, or to see you graduate, or get married and have your own children. Like, I wish I could be there, but I can't. And I regret that. And start to pour out from your heart what you would love to tell your child if they were right in front of you. And I know that God will take those words and deliver it to your child, because your child is in the eternal realm. And then bring your child before the Lord and commit your child to him, into the care of the Lord. There's something about doing that will bring closure and healing to your own heart, I think. I really believe that where it just felt so open-ended and so loose and so unfinished, that'll help you finish. Just say, I just dedicate, and mention the name the child. I dedicate Susie, or I dedicate Michael to you, Lord. I'm so sorry for what I did, but I put him into your care. I put her into your care. And I trust you. And then that's the most kindest thing that you can do for your baby, is to put them into the hands of God. And I feel it'll finish something. It could bring healing to you. And there's someone in particular that I'm seeing right now, is that you were coerced, even as Laura shared earlier. Some of you have been coerced into terminating a pregnancy because of a boyfriend or parents or maybe even a counselor. thought that would be the best thing, but it wasn't really your will. And that I just feel like you're going to be able to forgive them on today's program. You're going to be able to forgive them right now. Just release them into the fullness of your forgiveness. And God's going to heal you. Healing is going to come. And you have a word, actually, that God gave you out of Isaiah for women who have suffered. And do you want to share that word right now?
Sure. Yeah, and it was this morning when I was praying, it was just very heavy on my heart and real, and I believe it is a promise to all of you who are out there, if you have experienced an abortion and you're dealing with the regret and the pain and the sorrow. Isaiah 61, verse 3, and I'll just start from the beginning of verse 1. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, and to comfort all who mourn and provide those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor. And I believe that that is for many of you who will know the full forgiveness of Jesus Christ, that you will be healed and you will be set free, and you will be a voice to those who may not understand the importance of this matter in their own lives. You will be able to be a messenger of hope to others. And so I just pray that you receive that and that you believe that, because that promise is for you.
That is so beautiful. We're going to take a break right now, but I want to encourage you to go to caps.com. And there's so much information there, not only if you need healing yourself, but how you can support others who are facing big decisions right now, supporting them in love and with kindness and with truth. And we want to offer you this little booklet. If you go online, it's in a PDF format that you can download. And it's called Healing Conversations, Abortion and the Church. And it goes into a lot of the different issues, and it's got a lot of insight for you and a lot of ministry in here for you. So we'll be right back after this message. God's law of attraction. It is an amazing discovery when we understand that God creates the laws for our benefit and we get to search them out. It says in 3 John verse 2, Beloved, I pray that you would prosper in every respect and be in health as your soul prospers. So God's law of attraction is about soul's prosperity. Whatever you think, whatever you imagine, whatever you feel, whatever you choose, whatever you speak is going to have effect on your life. You've heard of it said in Job, that which I feared came upon me. You see, he attracted what he feared because he was operating in God's law of attraction. But you know, when you align your soul with the promises of God, guess what you're going to attract? You're going to attract those promises. You'll want to get God's law of attraction. It'll transform your life. God wants to use you to be a voice for him, to help others. And that's what you do so well, Laura. I just so admire you for laying down a career as a family physician, doctor, everything that you were doing, laying it down to focus on helping people who need support in this area. And with the pregnancy support centers, I think it's amazing. But let's talk about, first of all, I mean, we all probably in our life know of people who have had abortion or who are contemplating abortion. So you've already mentioned some things, like just opening up conversation is one way to bring healing to people, to bring it out of the darkness, especially in church, right? So can you share about that? Because in church, a lot of times we don't want to touch that subject. It's not even taught on much in church.
Yeah, right. And really, in order for this issue to be changed, we have to start talking about it in church. That should be the safest place. And yet there was actually a study that CareNet did in 2015 with Lifeway Research, and 1,000 women who were attending a Christian church who'd had an abortion 73% of them said that they didn't think that the teachings on forgiveness applied to an abortion.
Wow.
And over half of them felt that it wasn't safe to talk about their abortion in church or with their pastor. And so we really need to change that.
Right.
And part of that starts from being able to talk about it from a leadership perspective. And because it is no different than any other sin, if we call it that, it is no
Right.
different.
Right.
And so we have to talk about things in a balanced manner and touch on all of the issues that prevent us from living out God's best and God's destiny for
Right.
us.
So that people can move on, they can move forward in fullness, not with thinking, well, I'm second rate because of what my past has in it, but that we can move forward without regret, without shame, without guilt, without condemnation. And on the area of the subject of condemnation, you know, we hear about people who are going in front of abortion clinics and, you know, being pretty loud and sometimes nasty, and, you know, very graphic at times. And I understand, you know, their heart. They have a passion to see people free. But can you share with our audience a little bit about that? Because, I mean, we don't want to judge them either.
Right.
But at the same time, what's a better way to handle this?
So the pregnancy care movement is really the pastoral arm of the pro-life movement. And so we really believe in bringing a different sound to the abortion debate, a sound that is full of hope, compassion, kindness, gentleness. And we think that that's a message that the general public will hear when they see that we're loving people authentically, not judging them, providing them with practical help to their crisis or unwanted pregnancy, then they'll hear that. And so that's really the position that I believe needs a bit more focus. We need to actually be speaking a message that our culture will hear.
Oh, it's so good. I know myself, you know, if someone comes at me, you know, without me even knowing them, let's say, or even if I do know them, but if they come at me with judgment and criticism, right away, I want to put a guard up. I want to protect myself because I don't understand the anger or the accusation that's coming. So I become guarded. And then the next step after you guard yourself is to self-protect, and you can get aggressive back just to push that away. And so by being very aggressive and unloving and not kind, we're actually probably going to stimulate something that we don't want to see. So I really love what you're saying there. And it's like love and kindness and understanding and even being able to listen more than we speak would be good. Okay, now let's talk about pregnancy care centers, because you're very involved with giving support in that way. How can people get involved with that? And if they were to get involved, what would they be doing?
Yeah, so really, as a physician, when I would see a young girl in my office who wasn't sure what to do with her unplanned pregnancy, I could talk to her about abortion, parenting, or adoption, but really when she left my office, if there was no center, like a pregnancy care center, really she had no practical support. And so I was part of a group that helped start a local pregnancy care center, and I've seen it firsthand, the important work that it can provide, or help that it can provide. So essentially, pregnancy care centers are there before a woman has a baby. They can help her with parenting, education, supplies, before and after the birth. If a woman wants to pursue adoption, they'll help her connect with a licensed adoption agency, support her again before, during, and after the adoption, as well as the father of the baby. And if she decides to pursue abortion, one of the important things is that we provide medically accurate information on all of the choices so that she can be empowered to make a well-informed decision. But ultimately, it's her decision that she will make.
Right.
And so
but you can give her the tools.
But we want to empower her with and take away all the other barriers to continuing with the pregnancy, so that this life decision is made with a lot of thought, with a lot of information, that it's fully decided upon. And so pregnancy care centers provide that piece that's really necessary. And then afterwards, if she does pursue an abortion and needs help, the pregnancy care centers are there for her as well.
So beautiful. And so people can just go to a pregnancy care center in their area or go online. There's many of them all over the world and probably in every nation, and find out how they can volunteer or get the training that they need to get involved.
Yes.
Thank you so much for facilitating just a tool, a resource, a heart that is available for women to come to when they're struggling. And I know that you offer support for men too, because the fathers have issues also, they have pain. In fact, everyone who is involved in that decision or in the life of the child that was lost is going to suffer to some degree and needs love, needs support, needs prayer, needs help. And we can all be involved with helping. And I just am getting a word right now for a mother of your daughter. Your daughter was a teenager, she got pregnant, and you were absolutely sure that she had to have an abortion. You pressured it, you made sure that it happened, and then afterwards you found out that you didn't even believe the same anymore, that you were getting God's heart, but you had already pressured your daughter, and there's actually been a wall between you and your daughter too. It's not been a good relationship. And the Lord's telling me to tell you that his blood is thick enough to cover every single aspect of that whole interaction and everything that happened. And there's going to be reconciliation come between you and your daughter. There is going to be a healing that is going to come to the family because he is your healer. He is not angry with you. He is not upset with you. He loves you and he loves your daughter. And there is going to be a beautiful reconciliation. Well, we have to go. Our time is finished right now, but thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a program about love, God's love, his everlasting love. And he wants you to remember that he loves you with an everlasting love. He really, really does. Go spread that love out to the world that you live in.
Life affords us many opportunities to leave an eternal mark in history. In the end, all that matters is what we've done for others.
What I love about Patricia is that she is just a solid, laid-down lover.
I see Jesus in everything that she does.
What you see is what you get. It's just a real person.
It's encouraging to see what God is doing in her life.
We can do more together than alone.
I love this ministry.
I love their outreach to sex trafficking and kids at risk.
When you partner with this ministry, you get to make global impact into people's lives. I feel like the Lord has aligned me up to just sit under her mantle and giftings.
We partner with Patricia because she is a sold-out lover of Jesus.
Just because I'm connected, I receive it.
It's just like sowing and reaping. Like you sow, you're going to get abundance.
So when you break through for him, he breaks through for you.
God blesses us when we step forward in our faith. I just encourage everybody to become a partner. It just takes you up to another level.
Partner with Patricia King to spread the love of God around the world.
Your soul is the epicenter of what happens in your life. Patricia King's book, God's Law of Attraction, takes you on a riveting journey from God's perspective through your soul to discover the secret to a life of abundance and success.